3 of the Premier Challenge here at Junxi number 20 at Second Sort of Plays. My name is Jesus Coronel, and still with me is the turnaround Franco here. And we have a doozy, ladies and gentlemen. 2 players at 2-0, including a first-time player onto the stream here, William Junxi Franco, going up against Junxi. Junxi, you may remember from yesterday's stream, being the runner-up of yesterday's Premier Challenge, and we have William Franco, first-time player, usually one of the Smash players around Southern California, and now is in Pokemon and in 2-0 right now for this Premier Challenge, and he is doing it with Clamora, Dondozo, Dragonite, Ogerpon Teal Mask, Tatsugiri Curly Form, and Chenpao. And for Junxi, it's the same team as yesterday. Amoonguss, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Porygon 2, Landers Incarnate, Incineroar, and Goldango. And now, looking at this matchup right now between both these players, I mean, Dondozo is definitely going to be the prevalent thing about Williams' team because there's not really a whole lot that could do a lot of damage towards Junxi's team that can really respond to Dondozo, other than like maybe the Porygon 2 or Amoonguss, because Amoonguss or... Ooh, actually, Junxi does not have Clear Smog on the Amoonguss. That actually is a good sign because the only thing he really has to worry about at that point is Spore, and it naturally can just beat Goldango outright, but I had to think, well, if you're Lily, you gotta be worried about that Landers Incarnate, but Junxi has that defensive staples of Porygon 2, Incineroar, and Amoonguss, meaning he can stall out for a good amount of time and make sure he could get the time to deal with Dondozo as quickly as possible, because the sooner you deal with Dondozo, the better, as most people would like to implicate. And here we go, game number 1. Junxi gonna send out Urshifu and Amoonguss, and William gonna send out Chenpao Dragonite to try to staple from the very beginning of Scarlet and Violet. Sword of Ruin, Extreme Speed, Terra Normal with the Choice Band, always a threatening option for sure. But for Junxi, this isn't the worst thing in the world, because if you're Junxi, you have a pretty easy route to go Terra Water, and make sure you go for Ice Spinner to make sure you don't get hit by something like the Ice Spinner Extreme Speed combination. But Urshifu is Choice Scarf, meaning you can just outrun it for a potential close combat knockout. And if you do go for close combat on Chenpao, you are just going to proc Focus Sash, but if it's Searching Strikes, it's going to be doing so much damage it might just threaten a one-hit knockout straight up. Meaning, I think it all hinges down to what this Dragonite does for William. And I mean, Aerial Ice is definitely an option, but Outrage is also something that's like really high damage output. And yeah, we tell this is a tough position for both players to be in, because if they get this wrong, this could really swing the momentum of the game here. And William gonna go ahead and Terra this Chenpao actually gonna go ahead and Terra it to go. So he's really trying to call out a close combat from this Urshifu. And if it is close combat, this is big for this Chenpao, as it will retain that Focus Sash. Extreme Speed into Amoonguss barely does less than half damage. Will take some Rocky Helmet recoil damage, but instead of the close combat, it is a U-turn from this Urshifu. Junxi gonna switch it out. And now this Chenpao looks pretty good to go for Ice Spinner onto this Amoonguss. This is Porygon 2 coming into play here, but no, it's just gonna be Incineroar for that Intimidate onto that Chenpao. But unfortunately will not work against this Dragonite because it is in their focus. But what does the Chenpao do here? It is Ice Spinner, and it is into the Amoonguss. Is this enough for the knockout? It is. So the double target was definitely on point. Yes, you lose your Focus Sash, but the Terra isn't the worst thing to lose right now, because I mean, although you are now immune to Fake Out, you are still susceptible to something that knockoff now from this Incineroar. Meaning this isn't exactly a terrible situation for this Chenpao to be in. Although for Junxi, using the Amoonguss means you lose out on your big support piece as Porygon 2 comes into play to give it that special attack download boost. Okay, that's actually really big for Porygon 2, because Porygon 2 with that download special attack boost actually does a whole lot of damage to things like that Terra Blast and that Ice Beam. Terra Blast unfortunately not going to be touching the Chenpao, but it will touch the Dragonite. So I don't know, this really just comes down to what does the Chenpao do here, because you can't just protect and make sure that you don't lose your Chenpao on the very turn, but right now Junxi right in his Trick Room. Should he desire it? Yeah, and it's just like, what does the Dragonite do here? And ooh, yeah, we do see the Dondozo stuff in the back, meaning that could be just something you have to pivot to towards the end of the game, because you're at a point right now where Amoonguss isn't threatening you with Spore, at least anymore, now that the Terra is gone. I mean, now that Terra is gone, because Chenpao went for the Terra Ghost, meaning you could have split word, but because the Amoonguss is gone, you can no longer have to worry about it, as Knockoff goes into this Chenpao trying to knock it out Twist Porygon 2 is just going to Ice Beam into this Dondozo with that special attack boost. It is unaware though, so we are going to be ignoring that special attack boost outright, and yeah, it's not doing a whole lot of damage to the Dondozo at all, and now we are just going to see William potentially going into the commander mode with that Tatsugiri, and it's going to be locking in that Earthquake, so damage will be dealing from this Dondozo, and because Incineroar's in play, it doesn't really like being in this position where, well, you don't want to be taking Earthquake because you are weak to it as a fire type, and your Terra type's poison, unfortunately, being that you are still just weak to Earthquake even if you do Terra, so Terra is not an option for Junxi, and you have an Urshifu in the back that's likely to be threatening not a whole lot of damage, especially because you have a Rocky Helmet as well with that Dondozo. Here comes Tatsugiri, and the Commander boost will go into play here, getting the +2 boosts on all stats except for accuracy and evasion. Meaning, it is time to play with the fish. Dondozo is in play for William, and he is looking for that big damage that he desperately wants with this Earthquake. Junxi gonna go ahead and Terra something into the Poison Terra, whether it's Porygon 2 or Incineroar, we may not know. It is Incineroar gonna tear into the Poison side, so it is not even read or Wave Crash instead of that Earthquake, but if it is Earthquake from William, it is still gonna be super effective, unfortunately. What do we do here? It is Earthquake from the Dondozo. It is just going to hit into this super effective damage into this Incineroar. It is not enough for the one-hit knockout quite yet now. Citrus Berry will proc on this Incineroar, so you at least get some HP recovery back, but it isn't a whole lot that you could really do about it. And there's the parting shot into this Dondozo, going to lower its attacks by 1 stage and swap it out with that Urshifu. And now that Urshifu's in play here, it is going to have to be a lot more careful because this Dondozo is carrying a Rocky Helmet. So, and here comes the Terra Blast at +2 special defense. Yeah, not doing a whole lot of damage. Although it is just the same type of attack bonus as a normal type. And yeah, now you're William, you got to think about, okay, well, is Incineroar can just come into play here and start going more Intimidates, meaning, do I want to cancel that or order up, or do I just want to go for an Earthquake for guaranteed damage? Because Porygon 2 can just go ahead and, you know, just sit there and do damage right now as we see the close combat go into this Urshifu, going ahead and get Dondozo down to half HP, but it is going to take some Rocky Helmet damage back. And now we're going to see this Order go into this Urshifu at +1, now technically a +2, because now Urshifu lowered its defense by 1 stage. It is going to get that attack boost back. Terra Blast once again lands onto this Dondozo. Ooh, I am not sure if a close combat's enough range for another knockout. If it is, then Dondozo will go down. Tatsugiri is going to take a whole lot of damage, but if it doesn't, then you at least get another Order up and potentially knock out the Urshifu at that point. The rest of the game just hinges on, okay, can you damage Porygon 2 for the rest of the battle? Because Junxi's importance right now is definitely Porygon 2 and Incineroar, just to get as much damage control as possible with that Intimidate and the download and the recover that Porygon 2 utilizes. But if close combat isn't enough to knock out the Urshifu, then you do get more leverage from this Dondozo. And we are seeing here a lot of thinking coming in here for William. And yeah, I don't blame him. This is a really tough decision for him to make. And Junxi's in a good position at the very least, and we are going to see a close combat coming here. Is it enough for the knockout? It is not enough. So unfortunately, Urshifu not going to be taking a knockout into the Dondozo. Likely will be going down to the next attack. Dondozo throws out here, but this is a worthwhile trade for this Dondozo because well, you knock out the Urshifu here, but if it is Terra Blast for this Porygon 2 from Junxi, yeah, you just get into a position where Terra Blast knocks you out and Tatsugiri can come into play here, and you can mitigate and intimidate with Dragonite. This is perfect for him. And the Terra Ghost is still in place, so I mean, you can't even Fake Out if you wanted to. Fake Out's no longer an option, although Knockoff still is. You are Terra Poison, meaning you can threaten damage with Stopping Tantrum, but Sacred Sword is no longer super effective, so that's just something you gotta realize, you gotta really hone into. Chien-Pao gonna come in here, gonna activate that Sword of Ruin, but because Incineroar swapped in, you are gonna take an Intimidate drop. Tatsugiri not in a bad position, you know, Draco Meteor can knock it out from this range, but Fake Out still an option available. If it is Fake Out, does Chien-Pao's Ice Spinner knock out Incineroar? Because if it knocks it out, you're left with a Porygon 2 versus Tatsugiri, Chien-Pao, and Dragonite in the back, all of them wanting to do so much damage. And this really just screams Junxi really doesn't have too many answers for this Dondozo mode. Critical hit on the Fake Out, unfortunately, there for the Tatsugiri, so it will take a whole lot of damage. Ice Spitter will land onto this Incineroar at -1 with a Sword of Ruin. It is enough for the knockout, and William Franco up 3 Pokemon to 1 against Junxi, the runner-up from yesterday's Premier Challenge. Goodness gracious, the new player has come into play here. Trick Room does get set up, so you at least get speed control for the remainder of this battle, but it is still just a 3 versus 1 right now between William and Junxi. Junxi, it's just not impossible for him to get out of the situation because Ice Beam can do damage on this Chien-Pao, but Terra Blast can't. So it's like, okay, how do you control the damage if you're Porygon 2, and if you're William, can you do enough damage? Because your Chien-Pao's at -1 attack, meaning Sacred Sword isn't going to be doing so much damage, meaning Junxi is going to get those opportunities to get those attacks off. And Tatsugiri, if you lock yourself into Muddy Water, maybe you get the Sacrifice Drops, or you really want to get the damage, go for Dragon Meteor. Guaranteed damage is always going to be Dragon Pulse that it's carrying. I don't know. This is just hard for Junxi to come back into this game. Ice Beam is going to come out into this Chien-Pao at +1 special attack, still not enough to knock it out. Here's the Sacred Sword into this Porygon 2, doing a decent amount of damage thanks to the super effective hit. Dragon Pulse lands on this Porygon 2, not enough for the knockout, but I would assume another combination would do it, barring a recover. And gosh, William came to play here in this game. Yeah, Sucker Punch, you're checking if you're going for the Terra Blast or not, but instead you're just going to go for the recover. But this is also inadvertently stalling out Junxi's very own Trick Room. So that was a really smart Sucker Punch because you either attack and win the game or don't get the attack off. Oh, critical hit on the Dragon Pulse. So you're left in the same situation as last game, as the last turn. Although Sacred Sword's still an option you can go for. Just how long can Junxi saw this Pokemon? Because and now I'm not seeing this damage output that Tatsugiri and the rest of Williams' team's carrying. I don't see a way that Junxi can win this game, if I'm going to be really honest. We are going to see another recover from this Porygon 2 because of the Sucker Punch failing from Chien-Pao. But how much damage does Dragon Pulse do? Without that critical hit, it just does around like 25%. So yeah, Porygon 2 not in a great spot as of right now, but it's still taking damage and damage each and every turn. This is the last turn of Trick Room, unfortunately for Junxi, so he needs more. Again, I don't really know because your damage output was just gone from the game from the get-go. Because of the fact that you got your Pokemon, knocked out pretty early. I mean, more importantly, that Amoonguss KO on turn 1 was really just bad for Junxi because now you can no longer really control the Dondozo mode at all. Recover goes off, Sacred Sword hit into the Porygon 2, doing a decent amount of damage. Here's another Dragon Pulse into this Porygon 2. I think a next combination will do it, and the Trick Room is gone, so this looks to be a pretty simple decision for William to make with the Sacred Sword plus Dragon Pulse, and this is going to be a very convincing Game 1 win. And yep, there's the canceled battle. William gonna win game number 1 over Junxi Zhu. And boy, did he come to play. That is insane to think about. Look at how that Dondozo just put in a work for William. Goodness gracious. Junxi's in a world of trouble because looking at his team, yeah, how do you deal with Dondozo that isn't Incineroar? And even if you do go for the Incineroar mode, you're not safe from Earthquake because you're Terra Poison, as we just saw. And like, yes, I think the better thing that Junxi could do into game 2 is preserve the Amoonguss for later turns because, again, losing the Amoonguss turn 1 is what costed him the game against William because if you lose Amoonguss turn 1, you don't have good Spore options, you don't have good control options with that Rage Powder or Pollen buff. And you don't get to Spore enough of Williams' team to really solidify those knockouts that you need from things like that Landorus or that Urshifu that couldn't really get the job done against that Dondozo with the Rocky Helmet. That is just going to be Junxi's task to do. And for William, you got to just keep up with the momentum. How do you adapt to the fact that you can win with Dondozo, but you have to deal with the Trick Room later on? Because getting into that 3v1 situation was perfect, but Junxi almost climbed his way out of that. But at the very end, Porygon 2 just did not have enough damage to really assess a full-on game plan. And heading into this game number 2 here is up to Junxi to even to set out because one more loss and you're losing the set. And William just needs this one more win to advance to 3-0 in this bracket. And this would be big in this 4-round switch because I believe most 3-1s and 4-0s will make it into the top cut phase as Amoonguss and Urshifu once again come out for Junxi And Glimora and Ogerpon are the adaptations for William. So, Glimora, Ogerpon is the lead for William. Junxi once again leading Urshifu Amoonguss. That Urshifu is carrying that Choice Scarf, but more importantly, does Ogerpon or William can terrestrialize into that grass type with that embodied aspect to get the speed boost to outrun the Urshifu and not care over the world about Rage Powder. But if Junxi reads this, this could be Incineroar coming in to tank the Ivy Cudgel, but that will also just give Ogerpon a Defiant boost. And finally, well, yeah, that was just a hard call. And oh boy, if Junxi did not tear, oh, he can't even tear away from the weakness. Here's an Ogerpon Terra with that teal mask. He's gonna go ahead and get that speed boost and that much needed power upgrade to that Ivy Cudgel. And this is big because this likely means Urshifu's gone for the rest of the battle. And it is just gonna be an Ivy Cudgel coming in here for William. Here it comes. The ball comes into play. That's a one-hit knockout with the Ivy Cudgel. Urshifu's down in one hit. William up big here, and the Meteor Beam gonna come out here. Gonna give it a special attack boost, and thanks to the power herb that it's holding, is going to go ahead and use it, but will it connect? Because Meteor Beam is not 100% accurate, and it does connect, thankfully. How much damage is this doing to this Glimora? I mean, trying to summon this, oh my god, almost a one-hit knockout, and Glimora is going to sleep. Gosh, that is so much damage from William. Amoonguss almost fainted in one turn. At the very least, you can go for the Incineroar and get the Intimidate off. Now that Defiant is gone and is replaced by the Embody aspect. But do you really want to go for Incineroar? Because you're really only draining the knockout on the Ogerpon, which you could already kind of do with the Landorus Incarnate with the Sludge Bomb. You could also get Goldango in here to set up things like that Nasty Plot that can really power up that Make It Rain that it's going to be using, but I don't know. Junxi's been getting red on from this game number 1, and this just feels like Urshifu goes down, everything just falls apart, and here comes the Porygon 2 at the very least, so you are in a better position to at least do damage to this Amoonguss, but Amoonguss can't just protect here to scout out the Ogerpon. Porygon 2 can just go for Ice Beam onto this Glimora, and it probably wouldn't really care about what the Glimora does because it has to take a turn of sleep at the first sight. It's just like, I feel like Protect Ice Beam is just safe for Protect Trick Room because that would just give you enough options and enough survivability to reposition and get into a state where you could, you know, at least threaten the potential of Dondozo coming into play. Because if you don't, with these type of Dondozo teams, yeah, you gotta switch out the Amoonguss here. You at least get the Regenerator off so you have better damage later on. Incineroar is gonna come in, no more Defiant, unfortunately for his Ogerpon, meaning that attack drop is gonna be permanent. But what does the Porygon 2 do here? Glimora will take that first turn of sleep here. Ogerpon gonna spike his shield to scout for Ice Beam. And if the Porygon 2 goes for the Trick Room here, that'd be big for Junxi because that's speed control into your favor, and it is gonna be the Trick Room coming up. So right now your Glimora is not really threatened by damage onto this Porygon 2 or Incineroar because Ice Beam's not really doing so much damage, and your knockoff's not doing a lot of damage because your Power Herb is no longer in play. So this might be a good time to go for that Mortal Spin if you're Glimora, because if you get the poison off on the Porygon 2 and Incineroar, that gives you enough damage output where you could stall out the Pokemon for as long as you can and get into a position where Chien-Pao and Dragonite can just finish them both off later on in the game. And I mean, that also just depends on if Glimora wakes up in its turn, because it's going to be probably the last thing moving thanks to the Twisted Dimensions earlier. And in comes Chien-Pao in place of the Ogerpon. Gonna activate that Sword of Ruin, but it's still not safe from that Flare Blitz onto that slot. Junxi gonna go ahead and go for the Terrestrialization. I believe this might be on the Porygon 2 into the Poison type. And it is gonna be Porygon 2 going into the Poison typing to avoid the Mortal Spin Poison if William went for it. And Poison Terra Blast will be Junxi's move into this Chien-Pao. How much damage will this be doing? And it doesn't do half. Not quite yet. There is the parting shot, gonna reset that special attack drop. So that special attack boost back to neutral. Glimora can try to wake up in this turn, and if it does, you'll be in a pretty good spot to get off one of your attacks like that Sludge Bomb or that Mortal Spin. Here comes the Amoonguss for Junxi. It's still not really safe after all the damage is taken. Glimora woke up. It goes for the Sludge Bomb. It goes into the Porygon 2, unfortunately. Now that it tear to the Poison type, it is now not very effective. and 3 turns left to Trick Room, meaning you can just go ahead and stall this out for as long as you can. You know, Glamora probably not your necessity at this point, so maybe you can afford to go for a Sludge Bomb onto this Amoonguss and switch out to Chien-Pao, or protect it at the very least, so you can get their attacks better. Because Sucker Punch, if you go for Sucker Punch here, you don't really get enough damage output to threaten a knockout onto most of anything. Ice Spinner, unfortunately, might be your best option against both these Pokemon at the very moment, or you just go for Protect to make sure your Chien-Pao stays up for another turn. Once again, tough situation for both of these players because if one gets the right answer, they'll be in great shape, but if they get the wrong answer, they're in bad shape. Amoonguss once again switch out for the Regenerator into the Incineroar for the Intimidate. Chien-Pao, oh, he actually caught the Porygon 2 going for the attack. Oh, that's a critical hit as well on the Sucker Punch. Ice Beam goes into this Glamora. It's not doing so much damage. And here's another Sludge Bomb into this Incineroar. How much damage is it doing? Well, it's doing like around quarter damage. So not exactly the worst thing to happen, but now this Glamora is in threat of another parting shot. And now this Amoonguss is just getting its HP back and fairly quickly. And I think if you're Chien-Pao, you gotta get out of the situation because Glamora, Ogerpon might not be looking good in the rest of this battle because you got 2 poison types to deal with and Superpower, which neither which is super effective against. And Ogerpon is just kind of there doing nothing other than like maybe clicking follow me. So like, I would really like it if Chien-Pao for Willow switches out into that Ogerpon. You know, it's not really needed at this point. And that Glamora, Dragonite, and Chien-Pao are more like your win conditions at this point because like the fact that Junxi can just stall out a lot of this team, and Spiky Shield will be coming out to combat a potential fake out into that slot. But it is just a double protect coming in from Willing to Assault. Another turn Trick Room, meaning this Porygon 2's life might be dire. As Ice Beam goes into this Glamora once again, and I think the Flare Blitz might be coming out into this Chien-Pao. No, it's just going to be a knockoff onto this Glamora. And Incineroar will take some Spiky Shield damage, so it is just losing HP by the very minute, but the Citrus Berry is almost up and ready for Incineroar once it crosses the yellow bar. And this still is a tough choice for this Chien-Pao because I don't think it should be in the field right now, but he's going to go for a recover here for Junxi on this Porygon 2, going to get it back nearly to full HP. And Parting Shot goes into this Glamora, meaning it's now a -1 special attack. And Junxi now is now he's in the mission of, well, let me try to control this board so that I could, you know, pick off these Pokemon one by one by making them weaker and weaker. In comes Amoonguss once again, getting more of that HP back. Look how much it's gotten him back into that Regenerator. Sludge Bomb goes into Amoonguss. That's a decent amount of damage. Oh, unfortunately, the Sacred Sword going to go into that slot, and it is going to trigger that Rocky Helmet once again to get more damage. The Trick Room is returning to normal as the Twisted Dimensions reset, and now we get to see what is Pokemon for Junxi can do here, because I believe Incineroar might be coming in here, and my only hunch of this is because Amoonguss took a bit of damage that they didn't really want to take, and if you get doubled up again into this Amoonguss, probably Protect. I think Protect is safer for Junxi because if you see a double up coming, you just get a free chance to go for Trick Room. If you go for Trick Room, you could get a lot of leverage. Because the Porygon 2 is doing everything it can to at least stay within combat range because it has Ice Beam, so now we see the Chien-Pao swap out. And in comes Dragonite, the reliable partner. And it has been a reliable partner for Chien-Pao, I'll say that at the very least. And there's the Amoonguss Protect, as I believe that was Junxi's best play to combat the damage output that Glamora and Chien-Pao were threatening at the time. But does this signal a Trick Room from Junxi, or are we going for an attack into this potential Glamora? No, we're just setting up Trick Room once again, and this is another one of those weird positions because it's very obvious that William can just switch in Chien-Pao into the Amoonguss slot and get the Extreme Speed knockout onto whatever potentially can be on that slot, because Amoonguss is not safe from any of the attacks at the very moment. Yeah, worst case scenario, you just trade Ice Beam with Extreme Speed with the Amoonguss, and you just let him Porygon 2 and Incineroar, but it once again just goes down to, oh wait, I don't have enough damage. I think Junxi is just in this weird spot where it's like you could do a whole lot of good work, but at the same time, you lost so much of your damage output by losing the Urshifu turn 1, and now you're just playing this momentum game as we see Amoonguss switch out for the Incineroar for the Regenerator once again. Intimidate, unfortunately, not going to really be affecting this Dragonite, but if this is Chien-Pao switching in for Glamora, that'd be a big punish into this Incineroar, but Outrage is also an option, depending on what William wanted. Glamora switching out into the trainer's ball and goes into the Chien-Pao for that sort of ruin boost. Here we go. Did it go for the extreme speed or did it go for the outrage? And it goes for the extreme speed. Other than Incineroar, oh, it is not enough for the knockout, unfortunately. That means a big ice beam is coming into this Dragonite's way. But will it knock out even though it is quad weak? Here comes the Ice Beam into this Dragonite. It is not enough for the knockout. That is really unfortunate there for Junxi, and Incineroar could be switching out once again. And this Porygon 2 is just losing out on this Trick Room, as once again, it's in a really just awkward position where you don't have enough Sorry about that. And then you just end up in a position where, yeah, maybe Incineroar switches out again, but this Among Us is just becoming the win condition for Junxi, and this Porygon 2 is just sitting there, just doing passive damage with that Ice Beam. Yeah, we see Incineroar swap out again. And yeah, this just becomes Porygon 2 just sits there. And this really just boils down to Junxi with the damage control. And that's decent amount of damage into this Among Us, but unfortunately, okay, Sucker Punch does land onto this Porygon 2, another critical hit, so that is still good damage. There's Terra Blast. It is going to be landing onto this Chien-Pao, so Sword of Ruin is no longer an option anymore, but once again, you're in the same predicament as the previous turn. It's like, okay, well, if you don't protect, you're going to get hit with a knockout, but yeah, now this Glamora is in a weird spot, because Ogerpon's not writing damage to a lot of Junxi's team without a fair amount of critical hits. And then if you're William, that Glamora is now in a weird spot because, yes, Sludge Bomb can hit Incineroar pretty effectively, but Meteor Beam is no longer with the Power Herb, so you're more likely waiting for something like that Meteor Beam 2-turn wind up in order to get the damage that you need. But Follow Me is just another option for this Dragonite, but do you want to risk the Dragonite? I guess it's Among Us, or potentially an Incineroar coming in here, or do you want to just hit the Porygon 2 and threaten and potentially risk a recover going that way? This is just difficult right now for William because Porygon 2 threatens a knockout on the Dragonite, and Dragonite threatens a knockout to itself because the Among Us going for a Protect here. Did William read that and go for an Extreme Speed into the Porygon 2? And it does. That's a good amount of damage. Terra Blast comes out. Is this going to this Ogerpon or is it going to the Dragon? Okay, it's going to the Dragonite, so it is going to get the knockout on that slot. So this is just, what does the Ogerpon do for William? If it goes for the Ivy Cudgel, it goes for the Super Power. Unfortunately, tries to read a switch into the Among Us, and now another one of those. I mean, this is another one of those weird spots now that Glamora can just get easily spored, but Ogerpon can Follow Me to spore away to make sure you don't get spored in the first place. Also, you can just Spiky Shield, meaning spores out not really an option anymore. You can also go for Ivy Cudgel to KO potentially the Porygon. I don't see a KO in the Among Us right now, but yeah, this just becomes difficult. This is just one of those long games, and as long as these games are going on, you'll notice the timer on the screen. It is getting much more lower, and the longer the timer goes, the more likely you are to lose to that timer. And this game's really just going down to the wire as more and more Pokemon are just getting hit by damage and damage and damage and protecting and protecting and protecting the Trick Room setting. Goodness gracious, this is just something else entirely. We are going to see the Glamora go for the Spiky Shield. Do we see Ogerpon do the same thing, or does it go for the attack? No, it's just another Spiky Shield. So if this is a recover going off on this Porygon 2, you got HP recovery for free. You're getting it a Hollow Puff instead. And Terra Blast goes into this Ogerpon slot. And now Glamora probably needs to go for that Sludge Bomb onto the Among Us slot. And then the problem, yeah, I think this Porygon 2 is just going to win the game for Junxi now. Now I'm looking at it because Chien-Pao and Dragonite are gone. Terra Blast Poison is probably doing a good amount of damage to this Ogerpon. Probably not the one-hit knockout, but it's probably got a two-hit knockout. Oh my goodness, this probably just goes for the game 3 right now. Among is going to swap out into this Incineroar, and this Intimidate actually will be able to stick on this Ogerpon now that William has no more switch-ins. for the rest of the game. And that's just less damage coming in from this Ogerpon as Ivy Coach is in here. Critical hits can happen. They have before. It's pretty likely that Porygon 2 is going to get hit with a crit, but that's just so little damage anyway. Sludge Bomb into this Incineroar will knock it out. Do we see Terra Blast Poison onto this on this Ogerpon here from the Porygon 2, or do you see another Trick Room come out here? No, it's just another Trick Room. Okay, I'm really trying to think of like what William can do here, because Junxi has a pretty free turn to go for another Pollen Puff or Spore. Like Pollen Puff to predict the Follow Me onto this Ogerpon, but also there's a chance of going for Spore onto this Glimmora to make sure that Terra Blast Poison gets unimpeded. But this just becomes really hard, and I think the move has to be... Yeah, I think Junxi just covering all his options. Pollen Puff can get Follow Mead. Terra Blast Poisons and at least do a lot of damage to Ogerpon. Glimmora needs a turn to go for a Meteor Beam if you want to knock out the Porygon 2 quickly enough. And we see Ice Beam not doing a whole lot of damage, meaning right now, William's priority has to be down to Amoonguss, because if you don't knock out the Amoonguss, it's not going to be doing too much damage to the rest of the game. But Timer is also a virtue, and this is just getting dire. And Spore was targeted at the Glimmora, and unfortunately it will not be able to hit, but the Terra Blast Poison will hit it as the countermeasure. Here is the poison. Isn't enough for the knockout. 4 HP. It survives on 4. Here's the Sludge Bomb and the Amoonguss. It is not enough for the knockout. Timer's getting low for the Glimmora. This is hard once again because Spore plus Pollen Puff plus Terra Blast Poison, all options for Junxi, and Junxi's got all the damage he needs. And the timer's ticking down. 15 seconds left on Williams' timer. I don't think he's going to hit enough knockouts in time. Yeah, we're going to see the Pollen Puff come out onto this Porygon 2, and Glimmora might be looking at a situation where it needs 3 minutes left on the battle. And the Ice Beam goes into the Glimmora, and here's a Sludge Ball onto the Amoonguss. Will take the knockout. And now it's a 2-on-1 situation, but Williams needs to move because that timer's really getting low. Ivy Coach is going in to this Porygon 2, and the Bonk goes in here. No, that's not good damage. He's got to move. 2 turns left, 10 seconds left. The timer's ticking. Follow Me coming in here. You gotta go for a Meteor Beam. Oh boy. And Williams gonna lose the game on timer. He's taking too long. Oh no. Timer is out, and I believe that means Junxi's gonna force a game free. And that just means the whole set is gonna change. Oh no. We hate to see that happen, and yeah, he's not gonna get enough damage. So wait a minute. No, the timer's gonna beat him. Ice Beam goes into this Glimmora once again. Not doing enough damage for a knockout. Meteor Beam will not be able to go off because there is no Power Herb. I believe we are going to game 3 because Williams' timers went to 0 and Junxi still has his. Yep, that's exactly how you lose the game. Wow, that is just crazy. And for those of you at home, William just went to get a glass of water. He's not done for the set. This is game 3. He's just getting water. This is... I don't know what to say because William had that game 1, but once again, the timer just beat him. He had the right idea to deal with the Porygon 2, Amoonguss, and Incineroar bulky core, but by the time he was able to do it, that timer was just gone. And then I was like, how do you... Yeah, I was like, maybe you have to stick to the basics and go for the Dondozo. Maybe that was the... Yes, the Ogerpon getting knocked out turn 1 was cool. It didn't really get into a position where you were getting hit with order-ups and much of the like. And we're quickly going into game number 3, ladies and gentlemen. I'm losing myself. I'm losing my voice. I'm not meaning to say this in distress because like, the set's taking so long, but this is one of the longer sets we're probably going to get for the rest of the tournament. As we're going into game number 3 now, we're going to see Junxi lead or Amoonguss Urshifu for a 3rd game in a row, and William going to lead Chien-Pao Dondozo. 13 Strike's still an option for this Urshifu to go after this Chien-Pao. Terra Ghost still another option to go for here, Chien-Pao. But this is just hard because, oh, I see that William's willing to go for the Dondozo mode very quickly. And if he does, This means that, oh, I don't know about that play. You're protecting Terra, so you do the exact thing you don't want to really do. And yeah, you protect it in front of a Terra Pokemon, meaning Junxi's gonna get a potential U-turn off on this Dondozo if it really gets it. And then what else was I thinking? Pollen Puff was gonna do a good amount of damage to it. Meaning, I mean, at the very least, the Dondozo can't get spored, but you allowed yourself to not do anything for this turn, even though you Terra'd. Meaning, if this turn should targeted on the Dondozo slot, okay, it didn't at least, so at least get a nothing burger out of this turn, meaning that you at least get a chance to go for things like that Order Up or Earthquake onto this Amoonguss and the Urshifu, or potential Incineroar coming in here. And that buys you time to go for, you know, those attack boosts that you really need, and an Earthquake to threaten the Incineroar almost immediately. And Urshifu more likely to switch out here because of the U-turn that it's just locking itself into. Yeah, there is a U-turn. It is doing decent amount of damage to this Urshifu, but it will take some Rocky Helmet recoil damage. I have to imagine Incineroar comes in here for Junxi, and if that's the case, well, your only damage output for this Amoonguss, if your Junxi is that Pollen Puff, which might not be doing a whole lot of damage even though it is super effective now, just means that you can't get it just means that Dondozo can't get Spore anymore, and Junxi's really got to think about his options to combat the Dondozo mode, and Incineroar is one of the better ones that you could really go for. We're all patiently waiting here in Big River Health when you afford to move here, and it's Porygon 2 actually going to be coming in here, and we'll get a special attack boost thanks to the download. And here's the Order Up into this Porygon 2. Yeah, it's a critical hit. Now you're at +3 attack. Pollen Puff into the Porygon 2 will recover the damage off at the very least, but this Dondozo is only going to get scarier by the passing minute. And if you Earthquake here, you might be doing like around 50% of the Amoonguss. I don't think it's going to be doing a whole lot of damage to Porygon 2. So it's like the question just becomes, once again, do you want to stockpile Order Ups or do you want to get the damage in with Earthquake? Wave Crash during also in matchup, but you're also doing damage to yourself. So, ooh, that's a really big option coming in here for Junxi. Wave Crash definitely going to be doing a whole lot of damage to something at the very least. It gets it off onto this Dondozo. Porygon 2 going to be taking a lot of damage. There's the recoil it's going to be taking. Pollen Puff into this Dondozo. It is doing a fair amount of damage, to be fair. And that's the trigger going up, and now Will's in a little bit of trouble because I believe Terra Blast with Pollen Puff might be enough for a knockout. Yeah, now we're going to see how Junxi can navigate around this Dondozo. I mean, William kind of did the job for him with that Wave Crash earlier to get the Porygon 2 down to as low as it is, but now there's a couple of questions to be asking. Well, if you switch in Incineroar, how much damage do you want Ford to be taking? Oh, well, now you don't know because Pollen Puff's going to go into the Porygon 2, get some recovery back. Ice Beam going to go into the super effective Dondozo. It is at download neutral. Earthquake going to come out, but Dondozo's going to be going down to the next hit. This is just damage control now, and this damage, not really promising. Now all that Willen can do is like go for something that could really just... Pollen Puff plus Terra Blast might be spewing a whole lot of damage to Tatsugiri, meaning Willen's game plan might be foiled here. Amoonguss is just like one of the bigger problems with Dondozo, not because of Clear Spot, because it can really just control the damage output for itself and its allies. And Pollen Puff once again going to go into the Porygon 2 to control the damage, get his HP maxed in near full, and the Ice Beam going to finish off the Dondozo. Tatsugiri will come out of the mouth, and now we're at a point where you can get Spore onto one of the two targets that William can have. Potentially the Dragonite and the Champao, and even the Tatsugiri now that the Terra is gone. And this just becomes a whole different game now because Junxi's in full control of the battle. Now that he has speed control, Xianpao comes back into play with the Sword of Ruin. Junxi still has Terra. That could be Terra Water into the Amoonguss to make sure that Ice Spitter is no longer super effective. You saw 2 turns left the Trick Room. This is just a masterclass stalling performance from Junxi, and he's doing a great job of controlling the board and making sure that you get your damage where you want it. And as the damage gets neutralized for Junxi, the less confident William gets as more of the Pokemon are potentially going to sleep or taking a lot of damage from the Porygon 2 and its download boost with that Terra Blast. And the Spore will go into the Tatsugiri, and now it will go to sleep for 1 to 3 turns. What does the Porygon 2 do here? Terra Blast into the Tatsugiri. It's going to be doing at least half damage, so Ice Spinner will go out and it will knock out this Amoonguss. So now it's a 3v3, but Tatsugiri will take its turn to sleep and it will be susceptible to a knockout the very next turn. Junxi, you have Incineroar, can just Flare Blitz the Xianpao in order to get the knockout. Tatsugiri not in a great spot. Urshifu going to come in here, so that shows a bit of confidence that you can just take as much damage as you want, and the Urshifu is not really going to get threatened by a knockout at the very moment. And that could just mean game over for William, as there is just 1 turn left of Trick Room, but Xianpao is already threatened by the Urshifu just being there with the close combat with no Terra left. Dragonite is potential to switch in, but yeah, that's like your only play. Like you can only go like Draco Meteor into the Urshifu and switch in Dragonite to make sure you survive your hit, because if you get out of this Trick Room and you get a chance to go for the free Outrage, then you're in a great spot. But if you don't do that, you lose Xianpao, and that means you lose your Sword of Ruin, which is really important. Yeah, this is really just difficult for William to get back into this game. Yeah, Tatsugiri gonna switch out actually, so Dragonite gonna come out in that slot. And Terra Blast goes into the Dragonite slot, and this is gonna be doing at least around half. Here's the Sacred Sword into this Porygon 2, gets big damage. That might be okay. That's not bad, but now you get close combat and Xianpao will get knocked out. It is now Dragonite versus the world, as Tatsugiri is still asleep. Junxi has 3 Pokemon left. I've seen crazier things happen before, but Outrage Dragonite with that Choice Band is enough to take games on its own as Trick Room expires for Junxi. Tatsugiri gonna be coming into play now. Still asleep, still under the threat of that Dragonite, still under the threat of that Terra Blast from Porygon, and even a close combat from Tatsugiri, because this is Urshifu's Choice Scarf, meaning this is just gonna be... Yeah, this is really just going to be Dragonite versus the world, unless the Urshifu opts to switch out, obviously. I don't really see that happening, though. Unfortunately, I think William's only played with this Dragonite is go for the Outrage and get as much damage as you possibly can. And when you do, you gotta hope that hits the Porygon 2, because if you don't, that likely means the game is over. And this is just close combat into the Tatsugiri, gonna knock it out. And now it is really Dragonite versus the world, because if you don't get this Outrage off into this Tatsugiri, then that means this game likely going to be over. Dragonite, oh, he went after the Urshifu, and that is just going to mean the Ice Beam is just going to land onto this Dragonite. And once again, the Dragonite just going ahead and betray his trainer. Ice Beam comes out, and that is Junxi Zhu winning 2-1 over William Franco. Goodness gracious. It might have been a really bad first battle for William on the stream, but he certainly fought for everything. And that is just one of those games he wishes he had back, because he had Junxi in dire position to win. He had Junxi in a position where he was going to win the game against him in game number 2, but he lost to his own timer. And then in game 3, he got himself into a good position, but the Dragonite just chose not to win the game for him, because Outrage went after the Urshifu instead of the Porygon 2, and that is just unfortunate there for Gucci-san. But William Franco still in the tournament, still has a chance to get a top out with a 2-1 record. He could get there with another win. Junxi still making his revenge arc after getting a runner-up position yesterday. And we'll be right back for round number 4 after this break. God, do we need it.